But I have to go on a river raft trip. Another one. You like my cool board shirt? I got this off. My daughter's in love down another river today. And so I've got to get going. I've got 15 minutes to give you guys something just so that I can be consistent in showing up. Hey, Liberty, thank you for sharing. I want to be consistent and I want to be faith-filled in RMS Johns. Thank you. RM Johns 35, sorry. And so I'm going to give you a little something today just so we can touch base. Yeah, yeah. You know what? Aren't there voices that just have a way of calming us? Mandate, celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. We're going to be throwing lots of baby showers because the baby's growing. Nothing's going to stop this. We are, hey there, we are pregnant. We are getting bigger and more effulgent and we're blossoming. And so we are going to stay in celebration and stay unimpressed by the enemy's strategies. But I will tell you something that painting teaches me a lot. Because remember, we started out with dealing with the issue of trauma and having a trauma series painting, which I have done for the last three, I don't know, 3 or is it 4 summers, where I did paintings based on, I think it's 3, trauma and overcoming trauma. And I've had different things to say in different seasons, but I'm also realized that our personal trauma makes us vulnerable and our national trauma makes us vulnerable, and then they interact. The degree to which we are personally traumatized and catalyzed out of fear is the degree to which then that bleeds over to the nation and vice versa, what's happening nationally and internationally to us. So I'm thinking bigger this time, thinking bigger about how we're going to overcome our national trauma. And in case you don't remember, this was originally a world, a kind of a rough-shaped world with a green continent in it. And then it was slashed with a fishing knife. Then we began to stabilize it, to restabilize the canvas, and we began to talk about forgiveness, breaking inner vows, and deliverance, and bitterroot judgments. Talked about the restoration of forgiveness, right? To give us a new place to work, a nice fresh world. We'll call it a deliverance. We'll call it a day. We'll call it healing. But then what I began to feel was this moisture shape stretching into this deep kind of, teardrop. We talked a lot about grief and how grief is a really important thing to deal with in dealing with trauma. And we talked about forgiving God. We talked about not getting what you think you must get in order to be okay. And the grief of God not giving you back exactly the world that you thought you wanted, that you felt you lost. And the grief of not getting our little ducks in a row, our expectations of what it's going to take for us to be healed. And so this stretched into a watery teardrop shape. And then out of nowhere, I was waiting for a praying medic to be done on the Dilly Show. Then the teardrop, the water drop, which to me was enough of a restoration. I was thinking about painting this beautiful, just bubbling, ready to burst water drop as a restoration, as the place where I was going to go. That's a beautiful image. Let's finish up our trauma healing, and we'll have this beautiful, hydrating shape. And lo and behold, into that drop, that teardrop, that water became a womb. And the Lord began to put on my heart that the deepest trauma healing for us and for our nation is for us to become the womb out of which new life comes. And that ultimately our healing from trauma is not just about getting back what we wanted. It's about us being shaped and stretched into a place for reproducing life, and where we are capable of being today. So then I have this cardioid shape in here. Isn't that interesting? Do you know what cardioid is? Cardio for heart. But if you're a microphone person, I do a lot of recording, and I'm in the recording studio a lot, and there are these things called cardioid microphones, and they have this shape, this pattern in how they receive signals. And there's usually a place on the backside of the microphone where the signal is not readily received into the mic, and it's a shape, a little hardy Valentine shape. So what we have is we've moved from this horrendous trauma, the slashing of the canvas, the devastation of our world, into this watery womb, and that actually has a cardioid shape, a heart shape in it. And you can see, and maybe some of you, the issue will be more visual than anything I can say to you linearly. But ultimately, the greatest and deepest restoration of trauma, personally, nationally, internationally, is that we were able to be so completely restored from our concern about how we get back everything we want, that we become people who are reproducing. It's really traumatized. What very often people will say, who are healers, is they'll say, this is what I went through. I went through all of these things, all of this abuse, all of this, but the most amazing thing about it all is that my pain had meaning. My pain had purpose. I was able to meet another person from trauma. Hey, Barnabas, is this idea that our the very thing in us that was so devastated and shamed and destroyed and shattered and shredded literally becomes this womb of new life, and then it's not all about us anymore. It's about what we're bringing forth for other people. So that's what we've done. I've just given a little overview of this whole canvas and where it started out. Now we've got this baby, and I have to do a lot of work to learn how to make this baby really be a compelling image. I've gotten some shapes I think I can live with. I'm going to work on it. Yesterday, I was working on the umbilicus, on the umbilical cord, all around in here. And as you can see, I've already painted it out because it wasn't very well done and the proportions were wrong. But we talked about the nourishment of the baby and what's happening in the baby. And he does use all of our experience for his purposes. It's just amazing when you can be so healed and whole that you're actually part of that delivery process, that you're working with those contractions, you're working with those, and every time a memory comes up and a triggering comes up, that can be almost contraction-like, can't it? And those can become powerful, positive, redemptive experiences, even if you are sucked back into an old memory or a trigger, and being able to let God process through that with you, and then you're able to actually work with him, which is what we're all doing, getting ready to give birth, right? To what God had. We talked about what we're eating and how it's eating us, and what we need to be very careful about the nourishment we take in right now and what we're feeding inside of us. So today I thought, well, maybe I can go in and fix this umbilical cord, and I can really make it an image that is very powerful and unifying, because, as an artist or as someone learning to be an artist, I can see all this space here there needs to be a purpose, and there needs to be shading and roundness and life in this and I'm you can't see it very well, but some of my details are starting to come in. This you can't see super well because I have to adjust the shape, but we're getting there. I know I have something now that's enough that I can develop it, just like in your process now, that we can say I can work on that. So I started working on an umbilical cord today, and then all of a sudden I thought, I really need to get my background in, because now I've done it a lot because I'm not a well-trained artist. But very often I'll paint something and then realize the background's not right, and I'll have to take something like this and carefully paint a background around it. That's not the best way to do something, but then I realized, I think I better get my colors in here. I better get this really solid. What I want this amniotic fluid here to look like. Okay, and this is what I want to say to you. Sometimes when you're stuck in a healing process, when we're stuck somewhere and we just don't know the next phase, we know something good is happening, but we're in process with trauma. We're in process with growth. We're in process as a nation, as a remnant. There are times from the thing, I can see so many flaws here that I just want to fix all these flaws. But there are times when context, we won't be able to see the beauty stepping in and the things really coming together until we pull back and we really get the background in. And we really, so today I thought, you know what, why don't I just begin to clean up while I think about how to really put this umbilical shape in here and how to really bring this baby to life. Why don't I just step back for a minute and I begin to clean up this exterior to get a nice, deep black background and to clear up this cardioid shape and to start just really tying in what does this background need to look like and how is it going to fit together. And there are times in this growth process when we're super focused on something we're dealing with, and then there are times when we have to pull back. God doing in the earth, what is the context for his reshaping of America? What is we're focused on, I can't get this just right, this isn't sitting well with me. But there are times when you need to step back and breathe and look and be able to solve a simpler problem. To solve a simpler problem on a canvas, like making something clean and fresh and getting an edge and beginning to clarify your shapes and get the backgrounds in. And in our process together, as you're overcoming personal trauma and national trauma, sometimes we got this thing growing in us. We've got this womb of God's healing in us, for us, through us, for others as well as for ourselves. Isn't that beautiful? I could obsess over getting the details just right, but as an artist, and this is how God works with you too, sometimes you have to pull out, and God will say, pull out, big picture, get your context. What is the context? And this happens to me a lot in prayer groups where we're really focusing in on something we're praying about. And the Lord will often say to me, pull up, pull up. You live in the United States of America. What's the purpose of the United States? What's the purpose? It's that the gospel goes forth among the nations. So pull up from your worry about this or that, or this detail that's not coming together, or this thing that's still really bothersome to you in your process. Pull up. What's this about? This is about King Jesus being presented, the earth and the fullness of God's glory in the whole earth. Pull back, see the background, see the context, adjust some things, bring some beauty and some clarity to the context of your painting, of your life, of our mission, because it's so much bigger than us. That's just a simple artistic thing. When you get stuck in your process, your healing with God, your intercession, your sense of what's happening, what's going to happen with the voting, what's going to happen with this group or that group, what's going to happen with the pandemic, what's going to, God will say, and you're in there just trying to figure it out, get it just right, and bring, and very often God will say, and an art teacher, I love this, my art teachers will all have always had me just, okay, Julie, walk away from the canvas now, walk away, pull back, and they'll make me go and walk 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 feet away from the canvas. Now look at the canvas. What else? What do you see now? How does the shape work now? From way over there. And this is what I did today. Instead of really worrying about that umbilical cord shape, which I'd like to have more time to play with, frankly, rather than just on a live stream, because it's a tricky one for me. And some of these details, I want to have time that I don't have with you. But what I was able to do was enjoy cleaning up some lines, deciding on some colors, cleaning up the cardioid shape inside the teardrop, inside the water, really dealing with some hacks and missteps on the exterior of the canvas, because I have a plan for this and I wanted this to be just deep, fresh, clear black. And I wanted these shapes to work. And so I had some fun. And I thought, I'm going to do something that's a little easier today. I'm going to clean up the canvas. I'm going to reinforce my shapes. I'm going to think about my background colors for the amniotic fluid and for the cardioid shape around the baby. And you know what happens when you do that and you step back and you bring your context into a story, into a situation? There is a sense and you can bring simple pieces of order into a larger structure. There's a sense of well-being that comes from that. When you can't grasp something's just too much for you, too overwhelming. Something in the news, something in a relationship, something in an emotional thing, and yet you can pull back and do something simple that brings clarity and order to a line on a canvas, or adds a bit more contrast of the light blue here, and you clean something up, and you step back and you say, "Oh, I can see that now." I still have to go in and do the hard work of really making this baby ready to come out, really making this umbilical cord, in there. And then I have to integrate it with, what about the water? And you guys, I have to learn how to make this thing pop out so that when you look at it, you might almost think it was jumping out at you. I don't even know how to do that. And then I have to integrate it with what I know now is going to be in the background. And it's a lot. It's overwhelming. There's so much to do. Can I do it? I don't know if I can do it. Will it be okay? And this is where we are in the healing trauma process so often. Deep things that are challenging to us, stretching us beyond where we're not sure we can handle the change or the strategy or the confrontation or the healing or the effort, whether it's intercession, whether it's confrontation, whether it's our job, right? Because we all have jobs to do right now. Pray globally, act locally. Every one of our little tasks matters right now. We're on a team, we're in an army, we're part of a healing organism. So God says, step back. Your little life, as tragically wounded as it might have been, is being shaped differently, so you can be a life bringer, and so you can see yourself differently. I'll tell you something, when a woman gets pregnant, she sees herself differently. She understands how much more she is when she's pregnant. So step back from your canvas, get your context. What is God doing in the larger picture? Let that be a resting place for you over the next few days until you're ready, like I'm going to have to be, to deal with some painstaking, difficult work today. And I have to go, and I'm going to work on that this weekend. Step back, get your context for what God is doing all around you in the earth. When you're overwhelmed, it makes a difference. We're getting there, we're getting healed, we're getting whole, not just personally, but nationally. All right, you guys, do something that scares you. Maybe like step back from what you can't control